A Singapore court recently heard a case involving a serious technology-enabled sexual offense. The case combined two elements: illegal hidden recordings and the creation of manipulated explicit digital content using AI tools. The offender pleaded guilty in court. This is not just another criminal case. It reflects how modern technology is changing the way certain crimes can happen, and it shows how the legal system is adapting to those changes. Here is the key point. Technology did not create the crime, but it made it easier to scale and hide. According to court reporting, unlawful recordings were made in private spaces without consent. The material was later used to create altered explicit content using digital editing and AI-based tools. The case was prosecuted under existing laws covering voyeurism and intimate image offenses. These cases are treated seriously in Singapore. Courts often consider factors such as planning, repetition, and breach of trust. When offenses involve preparation or attempts to avoid detection, sentences can be more severe. That is why enforcement matters. Digital crimes can cause long-term harm, even after the original act stops. Another important detail is victim protection. Courts often issue orders that prevent identification of victims. This reduces the risk of further harm and prevents additional distribution of illegal material. Now, here is why this matters more today. AI editing tools are becoming easier to access. Software that once required advanced technical skill can now be used with basic training. Technology made this easier, and that creates new risks for individuals and families. Cases like this are also shaping how courts apply existing laws to new technology. The goal is not only punishment, the goal is also deterrence, meaning sending a clear signal that misuse of technology will still lead to criminal consequences. In simple terms, deterrence means discouraging others from doing the same thing. Singapore's legal system is increasingly treating technology-enabled offenses with the same seriousness as traditional ones. The tools may be new, the harm is not. The next question is how these crimes are actually investigated. Modern investigations often rely heavily on digital evidence, device analysis, and tracing how files were created and shared. Investigating technology-enabled crimes today often combines traditional police work with digital evidence analysis. Physical evidence still matters, but in many modern cases, digital traces become the strongest proof. Here is the key shift. Digital actions leave digital footprints. When investigators handle cases involving illegal recordings or altered digital content, they usually start by securing devices. This can include phones, computers, storage drives, cameras, and online accounts. Cloud storage and messaging apps can also become evidence sources. This is where digital evidence analysis comes in. In simple terms, this means examining devices to understand what was created, when it was created, and how it was shared. Specialist teams can often track file timelines, software activity, and transfer history. Even deleted files can sometimes be partially recovered. Technology made these crimes easier to commit, but it also made them easier to trace. Another key factor is intent. Courts in Singapore often look at whether an offense was impulsive or planned. Evidence such as hidden recording devices, editing software, or organized file storage can suggest preparation. And preparation usually increases how serious a case is viewed. That is why planning matters. It often changes how courts assess responsibility. In cases involving altered or AI-generated media, investigators may use expert analysis. Specialists can examine video layers, file compression patterns, and digital metadata. This helps determine whether content was manipulated or artificially generated. The technical term often used is synthetic media. In simple terms, this means media that is digitally created or altered to look real. Victim protection remains a major priority during investigations. Courts often restrict publication of identifying details. Authorities may also work with online platforms to remove harmful material quickly and reduce further spread. Another important factor is cross-border cooperation. Some digital services are hosted outside Singapore. This means investigators may work with international partners or global tech companies to secure evidence. Here's the bigger picture. Technology changes both crime and detection. Digital tools can be misused, but they also leave patterns that investigators can follow. As technology evolves, investigative methods evolve too. Law enforcement increasingly uses specialized cybercrime teams and digital specialists to handle complex cases. The next part focuses on why cases like this matter beyond a single investigation, including how they affect public trust, digital safety, and long-term technology policy. Technology-enabled sexual offenses are becoming a bigger concern worldwide. The tools used in these crimes are becoming more powerful. At the same time, they are becoming easier to access. Here is the reality. Advanced editing tools are no longer limited to experts. Software that once required professional training can now be used by ordinary users. Some tools even automate parts of the process. Technology made this easier, and that increases the risk of misuse. This is why governments are paying more attention to digital harms. In Singapore, digital safety is increasingly treated as part of overall public safety. The focus is not only on stopping crimes after they happen, it is also about preventing harm before it spreads. Here is why this matters to everyday life. Digital material can be copied quickly. It can be stored, shared, and redistributed across platforms. Even if content is removed, there is always a risk it can reappear somewhere else. That is the key risk. This is why victim protection is treated seriously. Courts often restrict identity disclosure. Authorities may also work with online platforms to remove illegal material as fast as possible. Another important factor is public trust. If people believe digital content can be easily manipulated, trust in online spaces can weaken. This does not only affect criminal cases, it also affects business, communication, and information reliability. In a highly digital society, trust in digital systems is critical. Another major issue is accessibility of AI tools. Many synthetic media tools are now available online. Synthetic media simply means digitally generated or heavily altered content designed to look real. Technology itself is neutral. The same tools can be used in medicine, research, accessibility tools, and creative industries. The problem is misuse, and misuse is what laws are designed to address. Governments are now focusing on three main areas: prevention, enforcement, public education. Prevention includes platform safeguards and detection tools. Enforcement means updating laws and investigation methods. Public education helps people recognize risks and report harmful behavior earlier. Here is the broader takeaway. As technology becomes more powerful, legal protections must also become stronger. Singapore's approach has generally focused on balancing innovation with strong regulation. The goal is to allow technology to grow, while limiting harm to individuals. The next step is how courts respond. Court decisions help define how new technology fits into existing laws, and those decisions shape how technology is used in the future. As technology changes how crimes can be carried out, courts are increasingly required to apply existing laws to new situations. In Singapore, courts usually focus on three main factors when assessing serious technology-enabled offenses: planning, harm caused, and breach of trust. Here's why this matters. Technology does not reduce responsibility. In some cases, it increases it. When offenses involve preparation, repeated behavior, or attempts to hide evidence, courts often treat them as more serious. For example, using specialized equipment or organized file storage can show planning. Planning usually leads to stronger penalties. Another major factor is victim protection. Courts often prioritize preventing further harm. This can include restricting publication of identities or limiting how sensitive material can be shared. Here's the key point. Stopping further harm is just as important as punishing the crime. Singapore courts also place strong emphasis on deterrence. In simple terms, deterrence means discouraging others from committing similar crimes. Clear sentencing sends a signal that misuse of technology will still lead to criminal consequences. This is why enforcement matters. New technology does not mean weaker laws. Courts also need to adapt to fast-moving technology. Laws cannot be rewritten every time a new tool appears. Instead, courts often interpret existing offenses in ways that apply to new digital behavior. This is sometimes called legal adaptability. In simple terms, it means laws are applied flexibly to new situations. Another way success is measured is prevention. Strong enforcement can reduce repeat offenses, but long-term prevention also depends on education, platform safeguards, and public awareness. Here's the bigger picture. Technology is advancing fast. Legal systems must keep pace. Singapore's broader approach combines strict enforcement with structured policy planning. This includes improving investigative tools, strengthening cooperation with technology platforms, and maintaining clear legal accountability. The long-term goal is stability and trust. In a highly digital society, people must trust that harmful behavior will be addressed quickly and fairly. If that trust is maintained, technology can continue to grow without creating widespread fear or misuse. The final takeaway is simple. The headline case is important. But the bigger story is how societies adapt to technology-driven risks while protecting individuals and maintaining public confidence.